And welcome, everybody, to our weekly chat. We're so very happy to have you joining us live from the Huckabee Theater in Hendersonville, Tennessee, just outside of Nashville. This is where we do our weekly television show. I sure hope you're watching it every week. You ought to be. In fact, you ought to come and join us in the studio audience sometime. People have a blast when they come. And you can get tickets and all the information about the show at Huckabee.tv. Pam Kay, senior producer for the show, is with me, as she is with me each Friday to field the questions. Now, what we hope you will do is be sure to send questions in the chat, or even better, send it through the super chat. We certainly want you to know that there'll be moderators keeping up with the questions so that we get as many in as we possibly can. What can you do to help? I know that was your question, so let me tell you, subscribe. That's simply it. Subscribe to the channel. That way you'll know when we're going to be doing the Q&As. Be sure to hit the notification bell. Also, like the video. Isn't that a neat term? You like that. Something. Yeah. You like it. So, of course, you like it.
Doesn't happen like it used to.
No, it doesn't. It used to be like, Jenny likes Tom. Now it's like you like something on social media, but also share. So if you have friends and perhaps frenemies, be sure to share this going on with them so that they will tune in and be part of our live chat today. We've got a lot to talk about. And before we get too far into it and get to your questions, this week, President Biden had another, it's not a press conference because he doesn't take any questions. This is a president who walks out, screams at the teleprompter, pivots on his heels, and then just walks and leaves people yelling questions at it. I call him Walk Away Joe, because that's what he does. This is this week when he now says the Department of Labor will be issuing a vaccine mandate on companies with more than 100 employees. Let's watch.
The Labor Department is going to soon be issuing an emergency rule for companies with 100 or more employees to implement vaccination requirements among their workforce. Every day, we see more businesses implementing vaccination requirements, and the mounting data shows that they work. Businesses and organizations that are implementing requirements are seeing their vaccination rates rise.
You know what's falling? COVID cases are plummeting in states all over the country, especially in the South. Because, during the summer, Southerners stay indoors because it's hot. So we stay indoors where it's air conditioned. In the winter, we are more likely to go out. In the summer, people up north, they tend to be outside because it's nice and cool. What happens in the winter? They go inside. Right now, what's happening is the shift of COVID cases is moving to the north and northeast and to the extreme northwest of the country. Cases are plummeting in places like Florida, Texas, Arkansas, where I live. So there's already a significant drop in the number of cases. I'm not saying we shouldn't encourage people, particularly older people and people with comorbidities, to get the vaccination. That's fine. But this idea of mandating it for every employer has 100 employees plus, that ought to be the employer's decision. And I must tell you, if an employer really wants to do that, I mean, that's their prerogative. But I don't think the government has a right to dictate to the employer and tell them. I loved it. And I think I mentioned this last week. I heard of one particular employer had 104 employees. Did I mention this?
I think you did.
Okay, had 104 employees. And his solution to getting under the threshold, he was going to fire 5 Democrats. So therefore, he would be only at 99 employees, and he wouldn't worry about Joe's mandate. I thought, that's creative.
What a plan.
Thank you, Joe. And those 5 employees that lost their jobs, thank you, too. Now, here's what's interesting. Biden says that vaccine mandates should not divide us.
Let's be clear. Vaccination requirements should not be another issue that divides us. That's why we continue to battle the misinformation that's out there. And companies and communities are stepping up as well to combat the misinformation.
Wow. He says it shouldn't divide us. But how come it is, Joe? Because you aren't even making allowances for the people who've had COVID and therefore have natural antibodies that, according to science that you love so much, gives people a better defense against COVID than does the vaccine. I mean, there are times I'm wondering, you know, my friends who have had COVID, I'm glad I haven't had it. I took the vaccine because I didn't have COVID. I don't have natural antibodies. I got to get the ones that are synthetic. And I'm all about that. That's fine. But this notion that we shouldn't be divided over it. Joe, you're the one who is dividing the country over this. Your bullheaded, absolute sense of demanding your way is exactly what's dividing. And by the way, Pam, his numbers have dropped down. His approval rating is now 36% with 61% disapprove. That is in the dumpster when you get that low. I was picking the right word there.
That's okay.
Absolutely. Anyway, then when he finishes this screaming at the teleprompter, here's what he does.
That's how we put this pandemic behind us and accelerate our economic recovery. We can do this. I've said many times, God bless you all and may God protect our troops. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye, Joe. Bye. See you next week. Or whenever it is you're going to come back in a room and scream at us. It's the beatingest thing I've ever seen. I've never seen a president who is so afraid to take questions from the very people that love him so.
Yeah.
I mean, they love him.
He shuffles out. And
if he ever had a crowd of people that, you know, want to polish his shoes with their tongues, it's the press. And he won't even give them an opportunity to ask any questions. So
I'm sure I needed that visual.
Turns and walk away, Joe. Bye-bye, Joe. He also is basically doing the same thing with the supply chain. Most of you understand that we have hundreds and hundreds of ships that are parked off the West Coast. This is stuff coming mostly from China, which I saw the best meme I think I've seen the other day. And it was the wording that said, when we manufacture things in America, we don't have ships sitting off the coast. There you go. That's the answer.
Right.
Make our stuff here. We have outsourced all this stuff to be manufactured in China, and it's coming back to bite us in the backside. And Joe goes, and now he's blaming somebody else for the fact that his policies are helping create this logjam, but he wants to blame the private sector. Let's watch.
This is not called a supply chain for nothing. This means that terminal operators, railways, trucking companies, shippers, and other retailers as well. Strengthening our supply chain will continue to be my team's focus. If federal support is needed, I will direct all appropriate action. And if the private sector doesn't step up, we're going to call them out and ask them to act.
Ooh, he's going to call them out and ask them to act. His team is focused on it. Joe, you haven't been focused on anything since you took office. I hate to be so harsh, but this is really ticking me off.
Yeah.
Blaming the private sector because he's got unions out there that won't work past a certain hour. That's part of his problem. And he kowtows to them. That's one issue. Secondly, all of the environmental policies that California has make it very difficult to get trucks into California because they only allow certain kinds of trucks to come in there and unload those ships. In the meantime, he's all about the environment. What do you think it's doing to the environment that those ships are sitting out there idling in the ocean for weeks and weeks and weeks on end, doing nothing but just sitting there with crews having to be paid, fed, and housed instead of moving into the ports and getting that stuff off the ship? It is absolutely disastrous. But here again, when Joe finishes his screaming at the teleprompter, here's how he exits.
That's what we're going to do. God bless you all, and may God bless the longshoremen, rail workers, truckers, and all the workers who are keeping our economy going. May God protect our troops. Thank you all so very much.
There he goes. Bye, Joe. Walk away, Joe. Takes another hike. You know, I find it interesting. He blames all those people and said, God bless him. I'm not sure which it is. Is it their fault? Are we asking God to bless him? I don't know. It's just very frustrating to me. All right, let's get to some questions because I know we surely are getting some, right?
Maybe he means to say it like we do in the South. Bless her heart.
Bless your
I bet that's
heart.
what he means.
Which does not mean what you think it means
That's
if
right.
you live outside the South.
That's exactly right. All right, let's start with a super chat. Mark Smith has hit us up. Thank you so much for that. Joe Woodrum asks this afternoon, Gov, why isn't the DOJ doing anything to stop what is going on at the border? Do they too no longer enforce the laws?
No, they don't enforce the law. And part of it is because they work for President Biden, who doesn't want them to enforce the basic fundamental law of our border. Let me be very clear. If there are laws that we don't like, the Constitution provides for us an opportunity to change the laws. It's called legislation. Congress, through both the House and Senate, can pass a law. The president signs it. Then the law says, you don't have to enforce the border. But that's not what the law is right now. So unless Joe Biden can get both houses of Congress to pass a piece of legislation that says we don't care about the border, we're not going to enforce it, we're not going to pay any attention to the laws, then he's supposed to do it. There were things when I was governor I didn't like. I didn't always agree with the law, but I had to enforce it as the executive branch unless I could convince the legislature to change the law. You don't get to pick and choose which laws you want to enforce and which ones you don't. One of the reasons that this stuff is just infuriating to me is because having served in government, I cannot imagine that people can be so absolutely obtuse as to think that it is okay for them to pick and choose which of the laws they're going to respect and enforce. And if they don't agree with them, instead of changing them, that's hard work, by the way, to change a law, requires some real effort, then just ignore them and just do what you want to do. That's the kind of thing happens in a dictatorship, in a totalitarian government. It does not happen in a constitutional republic. I'll tell you what does happen in one. You can be free to subscribe to the channel, which we hope you'll do. Hit the notification bell, send us a comment. Be sure to like the channel and share it with other people. All right.
All right, JC, a challenging question for you, Governor.
Uh-oh.
All right, besides blabbing on your show, what are you actively doing to remove the corrupt administration, career politicians, and bureaucrats? I think this one is asking you.
You think I'm just blabbing on my show, huh? That's all I'm doing? Well, I'm trying to influence people, including people like you, JC. But I do have a political action committee. We've raised about $10 million, and we support pro-life candidates across America for Senate, House, governors, state legislative races, sometimes even local races. We put money, not with consultants. We don't hire any consultants or pollsters and people who make a lot of money off politics. We give money directly to candidates. So that's one of the things I'm doing. JC, what are you doing? Can you tell us? I'm also doing a daily newsletter twice a day. I've got a podcast. I'm also involved in a number of other activities that are engaged in trying to move public opinion and to encourage people to stand up for their basic constitutional rights. So that's what I'm doing. And yes, I'm blabbing on my show. But if you listen and watch, you'll find out that I'm blabbing to tell people what's happening. And I hope that maybe that is of some interest even to you.
More to blab about, Governor, here with a super chat from Stephanie Ellis. And she's asking, how can a Christian respect a president who turns his back on Israel? Is there a way to show disapproval, a godly equivalent of everything the left did to Trump, while we wait for election season?
That's a great question, Stephanie. It really is. And I appreciate it because it shows sensitivity on your part that as a believer, you want to do what's right and you want to do what's respectful. And I think that's important. But you also want to do what will preserve the values that you and your family believe are important to save this great country of ours. So here's what you do. First of all, engage actively in the political process. Make sure that you're a registered voter. Make sure that you never miss an election by voting. Influence as many people as you can by helping them to know what is really taking place. Let them understand what these policies that are being put in by the far left are doing to our economy, to our way of life, to our basic sense of values of things like marriage and the biblical framework of a family. Those are all ways in which even a person that doesn't run for office can have a real role and influence. And I think it's just a reminder. It's always better when we can be respectful, but there's nothing in the law or Constitution that says that we have to just sit back and act like it's all okay. The Bible does command us to pray for those in authority. So I really believe it's important to pray for Joe Biden, to pray for Kamala Harris, to pray for Nancy Pelosi, and all those people that we're very frustrated with. Because the Proverbs say that the king's heart is like channels of water in the hands of the Lord. He turns it wherever he wishes. So let's pray that he will turn in a different direction than it's currently going. That's certainly something that we not only can do, it's something that we must do because we're commanded biblically to do that.
We already have, Governor, over 600 likes today.
Nice.
For what we're doing here today, and would love, what if we got it to 1,000 today? I think that would be great.
That'd be
share
wonderful.
it. Yeah. So like it, and of course, share it with somebody that you believe would enjoy watching. We are live with Governor Huckabee for the next little bit. So send us a question in chat. Just like now, Joe Woodrum wrote us earlier, and he asked the question about the DOJ. He's actually sent us a follow-up, and he thanked us, by the way, for taking his question. What now can we do, the people, do to make the DOJ enforce the laws at the borders, or anything that we can do?
Not a lot that we can do just individually to make the DOJ enforce the laws. I tell you what we can do, though. We can absolutely speak our minds at the ballot box. There's nothing more powerful than to throw out the people who think it's okay what's happening in our culture. If there are people who believe in defunding the police and allowing criminals to go free and don't prosecute people that walk into a store, I didn't say run, walk in, even if they run or walk, grab up a bunch of merchandise and casually walk out because they know they're never going to be prosecuted. Anyone who's doing that stuff, throw them out. Don't let them get back into office. And if we have a significant turnover next year in Congress, if the House flips and Nancy Pelosi has to give up that nice big chair at the front of the room and turn it over to Kevin McCarthy, and even better, if in the Senate, the whole Senate flips and Chuck Schumer goes to the back of the bench rather than the front, I guarantee you some people will start getting the message. May not change until we also elect a president in 2024, but it's at the local level as well. If you live in a community where your school board basically tells parents to shut up and just let your kids take what they are given by the school and the school board, if you can get your kids out of that school, may not be possible. If you can't have capacity to homeschool or get them in a private school, but don't be bullied into silence. Don't quit going to the school board meeting and speaking up and speaking out. That is your right as a citizen. And you're not a domestic terrorist for doing that. You are a citizen for doing that.
I love this super chat from Jonathan. Hashtag Governor Mike Huckabee equals real news. There you go. That's
nice.
A thumbs up for you, Gov. Another super chat from Stormy is asking, how can Biden exempt White House and Capitol staff and politicians while 650,000 USPS workers from the vaccine, and then give illegal immigrants a choice to take it while forcing American citizens to lose their jobs? Wow. Great question.
Great question. I think it's one of the reasons that Joe Biden's approval ratings have now plummeted down to 36%. With disapproval at 61, in part because he is imposing upon you, a tax-paying, hardworking American, a mandate about a vaccine that he totally ignores about illegal people who do not pay taxes, but who will be getting taxpayer benefits, crossing the border, coming into your community, potentially infecting you because there's no test, there's no vaccination. It's live and let live if you're an illegal. And I think people are fed up with that, as they should be. So yeah, that's a great, great point, and one that we should keep in mind. I want to also show there is an insensitivity in this White House that is just absolutely stunning. I mean, it's the equivalent of a Marie Antoinette saying, let them eat cake. Because this week, I first want to show you a report from ABC News. And the reason I want it to be from ABC, not Fox or someone else, I want you to understand, even the mainstream media is beginning to pick up on the fact that the average American is really starting to hurt from the runaway inflation, which is the worst in 17 years. Watch this.
Americans are paying more for everything from diapers to new cars, up more than 8%, and clothes up more than 3%. And it could get even worse as the holidays approach.
With the holidays coming up, you might be wondering if gifts you plan to buy will arrive on time.
Americans are looking at shortages on things like toasters, sneakers, bikes, and toys.
That's what's happening across America, and this is on groceries, on gas, on gifts for Christmas. So we're seeing incredible hikes in prices. Beef prices up 22%, bacon prices 11%, fruit and vegetable prices up substantially. Now, who is that hurting? It's hurting the people who have the least amount of money, because there are certain things that are fixed expenses. It is projected, for example, that natural gas and propane will go up 50% this winter. If you have to heat your home, and most of us will, that's a big chunk out of your paycheck that doesn't build a room on your house. It doesn't put new clothes on your kids. It doesn't send them to camp or college. All it does is just barely keep you alive from a harsh winter. Now that's inflation, and inflation is a tax on poor people. Understand, if you're making, Joe always says, nobody under $400,000 a year is going to pay anything. That's a lie. Everybody's paying more money for their groceries and gas and what they're going to give people as Christmas gifts. And you know who it hurts the most? People over $400,000 a year income. Doesn't hurt them. They'll be able to absorb it. They're not going to like it, but their lifestyle probably won't be affected. But if you're under that, and especially if you're, working class, you're going to feel it in a huge way, a slap in the face. And so I just want you to understand how bad this is. In the midst of all this, White House Chief of Staff Ron Klain retweeted actually, from a Harvard business professor, which tells you he lives in the world of the elites. And he says, basically, what's happening in the economy is a high-class problem. Jen Psaki, White House press secretary, was asked about this. This was her response.
White House Chief of Staff Ron Klain retweeted a message yesterday, not once but twice, that inflation and supply chain issues are high-class issues. But some of the sharpest price increases over the last month included products that every American buys: beef products, chicken, eggs, regular unleaded gasoline, laundry equipment, furniture, clothing, the list goes on. Why would Ron Klain tweet that? And would you agree that that's a little bit tone deaf?
Do you think 2 tweets means more? I'm just curious. So I think the point here is, well, there are some critics who are saying what some of these critics are saying we don't know if they're saying that what they thought was great was when the unemployment rate was double what it is today, or when people were locked in their homes and therefore gas prices were lower. We're at this point because the unemployment rate has come down and been cut in half, because people are buying more goods, because people are traveling, and because demand is up, and because the economy is turning back on.
Where does she get this stuff? I mean, is she just reaching up into the deep blue sky and grabbing it? It's just stunning when a person shows such an indifference to the people like you, who may be having a real struggle right now. When you go to the gas pump, and what used to cost you maybe $30 to fill up your car, $50. Gasoline prices are up dramatically. I drive by gas stations. I look at the price per gallon and I'm stunned. I'm remembering that a year ago, it didn't cost that much to buy gasoline. Go to the grocery store. What's the cost of milk and eggs and bread? I'm not talking about the cost of ribeye steaks, which, by the way, are up where most people can't even think about them. But I'm talking about the basic necessities of your grocery list. It's up dramatically. And her reaction to all this is the economy's doing great. We're just turning it on. And the whole idea about what's happening to the jobless rate, did she not read her own Labor Department figures that show that what's really happening is that people are dropping out of the labor force? The reason unemployment is low is because they're no longer considered unemployed. They're considered out of the workforce. They've quit. They've dropped out. They're getting these lovely checks that Joe wants to send them for not working, so they no longer even pretend that they are in the workforce. And that's why wherever you go in this country, challenge me on this. Go up and down any street in America and see if you don't see a help wanted sign in almost every restaurant, in every service provider for anything. They're begging people to come to work. So I don't know where Jen Psaki gets it, but it's disgusting.
Governor, we've got so many folks, great questions today, so many, and just letting everybody know there's still time to get a couple of questions in too. If you'd like to talk to the governor live today on our chat. Also, we come back every single week. We try to.
We do.
So make sure you subscribe and click on the bell so you'll be notified every single time that we come on live. By the way, here's one from LP. Want to get this one in because we talked about this earlier. Since President Biden refuses to answer questions by the media, should the media then stop showing up when he speaks? I've got the same question. Why are they showing up?
I think that is a great suggestion. But of course, you got to remember, they're really in the tank for him. So I don't know that they're going to ever be that bold. You know, they used to complain that Donald Trump gave him too much time. He would sit out there on the south lawn of the White House until the helicopter ran out of fuel while he's waiting to go somewhere. This president, you don't have to worry about that. He's going to run to the door, get on, and leave him hanging. And it's just, it's very unfortunate. He does not answer questions. I guess because he doesn't have any real answers.
All right, from Brian Cox, a little comedic moment for you. Hunter Biden should do a painting of his laptop. I thought you'd like
I love that. That's Brian. You get the line of the day. That's brilliant.
All right, another one from Josephine Williams. Why aren't there term limits for Congress? Nancy Pelosi has to go.
I support term limits for everybody, including judges. I think all three branches of government should have term limits. The only one right now that does the executive branch, president, vice president, limited to 2 4-year terms. Congress should have term limits. I don't have a problem with the judicial branch having term limits. Keep the system flowing. There's a big difference between a lake, or rather a river, and a lagoon. A river keeps flowing, fresh water's coming in, and the other water's being flushed on down. That's a healthy thing. And if you leave water in your bathtub for weeks on end, it gets stagnant, and I doubt you'd want to take a bath in it. We've got a stagnant pool of really bad stuff happening in Washington. I don't like people calling it, when they say the swamp. That's not true. Swamps have a legitimate ecological function. Swamps are God's natural filter for the environment, and swamps really do provide a natural way to filter things out, and that's a good thing. What we have in D.C. is not a swamp. What we have in D.C. is a sewer. It's a big, big difference between a swamp and a sewer. Let's get a couple of more questions.
All right, we've got a super chat waiting on you, in fact, from Sherry Phillips, and she's asking, how far do you think that vaccine mandates are going to go?
Sherry, it's hard to say. I mean, I think there's a rebellion brewing in the country on the mandates. And I really believe that if the government had simply continued to give us reasons to take the vaccine and showed us the benefits for particularly older people, but not try to force it on people and fire them over it and threaten to dishonorably discharge people from the military, I think we would have had an even higher vaccination compliance. The truth is, 95% of people over the age 65 have been vaccinated. And that was the target group to begin with. Is it necessary that a child get vaccinated? You know, unless the child has diabetes, or the child has some comorbidities, some issues that make him or her more vulnerable, most all the studies show that the child is not really at risk from COVID. Again, unless there's some comorbidity. So why would we subject the child to the vaccine unless there was a lot of kids dying? Total of the millions of kids across, I think this is in the U.S., 500 have died, and we don't know where the breakdown. So that's one of those things where, you know, I'm not sure parents are going to want to vaccinate their 7-year-old if the likelihood of a 7-year-old getting seriously ill or dying is next to nothing from a COVID illness. Something you ought to talk to your doctor about and do. But if the government had taken that approach rather than this mandate, force you, make you do it, we're Americans after all. We don't like to be told what we're going to do. We don't mind being encouraged to do what we ought to do, but leave it to us. Hey, it's been a great time. I thank you all for joining us. I hope that you will leave questions in the comments section. We may get to some of those next week. Be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell. And we always want to say thank you for joining us. But don't forget to watch The Huckabee Show tomorrow night on TBN. You know what you'll see? Maybe something like this.
This week on Huckabee, Congressman David Kustoff on the abysmal jobs report. Laugh along news on In Case You Missed It.
But if you want to be a sheep, it's real easy. Just watch CNN.
The Living Table with Chef Abby Turner. Comedian Lee Hardin. And R&B group Radio performs. Watch Huckabee on Saturday at 8, 7 Central and again on Sunday at 9, 8 Central here on TBN.